Hi there, folks. Saber4 here. Going to do a little bit of something different here. We've done the win your pre-release, a bunch of different cards and packs, and talking about how we get to pre-release and building. So today I'm going to do a live build for you. Just as we go, it's a live build. We're going to open up a sealed pack. We're going to build a deck. We're going to chat a little bit about it. You'll probably see me moving some tools in and out, but yeah, let's go ahead and get to it. Okay, so here we have our main little setup. We've got our Secrets of Power pre-release kit. I went to one last night, picked up one of the extras because I wanted to see if we could do this on camera and kind of see how things go. Let's crack it open, talk a little bit about seal play and what you're going to be doing. So if you're new to these events, you will be given a sealed box similar to this one. Hold on to it. Don't open it till you're told to. Because what you'll do is that with everybody else, you'll be cracking into your packs and building a live deck or building a sealed deck out of just the cards that you get. In this box, you have a nice little fancy caddy. It has your two set leaders. We're going to set that over here to the side and just kind of move the rest of this out of the way. You have rules. You have damage counters. We're setting those out of the way too. And then you'll have 6 sealed packs. So in all, what you're going to have is you're going to have 8 total leaders to build from, including the 2 that are in here, plus the 6 that are in your packs. You'll have 50-something commons. You'll have a stack of about 18 rares. You'll have 6 legendaries or so. 6 rares or so. Maybe a legendary. See how you do. I've opened one of these before and I wound up with all heroic leaders, which was not terribly fun. But as we talk about the packs, we'll kind of say what we do. I'm setting these here to the side where you can see them. But let's go ahead and dive in and I'll show you how I kind of set up my board as I am looking at things and evaluating them when I am building. When you're told to, everybody will crack into your cases and you will get the opportunity to go ahead and start building. What I'm going to do is that I am going to take these, I'm going to start separating out my leaders. And the bases don't really matter because you get these whichever ones you need. Your store can have them. They've got tokens on the back. So if you're running out or you're looking for tokens, they're always on the back of your bases. We're going to set these just completely to the side because they are not important and I can pick whichever one I want. I've cracked enough of these packs now to note that these flow in a very routine way. And so I'm going to tell you what it is before I show it to you. You're going to get green and blue, or you're going to get one of your non-color cards pretty early. So usually we wind up with this, and I'm going to start laying them out by color a little bit. Here we got a villainy only. We got a red. I'm going to slide these over. I'm going basically by aspect right now. Not terribly concerned yet with what they are. I'll pay a little bit of attention to the rare so I get some idea of what's going on, and then just drop them out into their spots. Now, notice that as we go, we're going to get a similar pattern with each of these. Slimore is our leader here. We could use any base. Blue, green, yellow, something there, yellow. Another red. Here we got kind of lucky. We pulled a couple of different things that are here. Galen Urso is a nice play if I'm playing Heroism. Vigil is a nice big capital ship, but it's also at 7. Academy Politician, nothing, or Disciplinarian, nothing too special. What I have noticed is that with that kind of blue-green, yellow-red nature, although I'm seeing packs that are about the same density of everything, what we don't really see is that we don't really see a whole lot of variance in how they start. So far, some of these packs that I've seen, I have opened some packs that are kind of the best start that you can have for a villainy pack. And if we happen to catch one, I'll show you, but if not, then I'll tell you what it is as we get to it. Jabba the Hutt, very powerful leader in this, especially with that huge body. The archives. Got another one of these guys. The loaders are quite nice. Nice little easy drop unit. that has some heal to him. Veteran. Okay. Kind of useless, fully armed and operational, except an interesting little plot card. You have to be very specific in how it's timed. So as we go here, what I'm looking for when I'm talking about leaders and doing other things is I'm looking at them to have good abilities. Yularen in here so far has probably the weakest ability of the four that we've opened, with the ability to, he can chain through attacks, he can action cheat, and that's nice, but in a game like this one, or in a environment like this one, you're probably going to wind up trading into units fairly often. And so his ability is not necessarily going to be active until at least the third turn of the game. And that's if units have survived. And so it's a really hard ability to kind of turn on. Yeah, 4/6 body is nice. It's a little better than what Slymore has, but I like her ability better. And then Jabba as a 2/8, that's just a huge butt to get around. Sabe has one of the more interesting abilities for a heroism card. We'll see what kind of plays out as far as her card pool goes. Mountain Pass, again, we don't care. Green, blue, offsuit, red, yellow. Almost every time. Valorum, this is pretty much a useless rare to get unless you wind up with Mon Mothma, because he's double green, so not a wonderful one to pull out of there. And just for fun, our foil was another double aspect. Not the most wonderful of pools so far to play from, but as sealed goes, that is what you will get sometimes. We got a double of Yularen. Going back and forth here a little bit. Let's see what we have. Yet another double aspect. We don't have Mon Mothma. This is another official. This is another pretty dead card as far as rares go. If you look at my other videos, there's a reason why I say that your rares, while they might be bombs in some of what you do, they do not necessarily show up as your best plays and are not always the thing that you are looking for to make your very best set. Luthen Rail. Useful. Second Beloved Order. Grassroots Resistance. Red Whispers. Ahsoka is quite helpful. That's actually quite a useful one to get, because with Ahsoka you can wind up action cheating on your own. 2/5 is not the very biggest thing that you're going to have, but if you are winding up playing in command with some heroism, or even if you have command and heroism just in your hand, you can continue your attack. Cat Lady and the yellow. All right, let's see what we got here. Leaders-wise, we have yellow and red heroism. We have blue villainy, yellow villainy, green villainy, which means that we have another blue villainy leader. We have another yellow heroism leader. So we are in one of these. I'm going to go ahead and open these up. Padme would give us another yellow heroism, although with the card pool, I don't think we have something for her ability. Chancellor Palpatine would give us something in blue villainy, though, again, we would be looking for a lot of plot cards. The fact that we did not open them on Mothma here means that we're really locked into playing two colors. Mon Mothma would give us the opportunity to play officials, and to play officials that are not villainy without paying their aspect penalty. So let's go ahead and start evaluating. And what we do here is that we take each of these pools and kind of start separating out. So I've got everybody. I'm going to move a couple to the side so that we can just digest a little bit better. And we're going to break these out so that we get units. And we get units by their aspect. . 3 of Treus Acolyte, which is not a bad start if we're playing in Villainy, because I got 3 of a pretty decent turn 1 drop. Nice size pool as far as this goes. We'll sort it again to get a size drop, which means that we have Lobot, Defense X-Wing, Mr. Wilrow, a couple of 4s, a couple of 5s, a couple of 6s. Interesting things in here, especially if you wind up with blue Villainy as your pool. A couple of decent Sentinels in here, and Jabba has a way to kind of strike back from all of them. So they are fairly decent in what you're doing. Himbar Mobile Cannon is a terror to try and get rid of in the late game. The Alderaanian Envoys, also quite a nice 6-drop. Not really going to be using that, I don't think, but we can evaluate here in the blue Heroism pool. Galen Urso is a nice plot card, being able to come out and lock something out of the game. However, this is limited. So the chance that your opponent is going to have several of a thing that you are specifically going to know and try and lock out is kind of low. Vigil is an interesting one. You are able to kind of prevent some damage to friendly units. It is able to be plotted out, but on 7, and there's not a heroism leader for 7. So you're probably not putting this in your row. 9 is a big butt on a capital ship. Going to be hard to get rid of this thing when it's out there, but doesn't do any immediate board impact. So there might be better high-end cards in there. Chandrilan Sponsor, very, very strong official, able to do some healing. That's probably one of the better upgrades you're going to find. So if you find blue, being able to exhaust and make one of your units +1/+1, quite nice. That's quite useless considering it's double. Search for an upgrade. We'd have to have more upgrades for that to be terribly useful for us. Let's go ahead and set that pool to the side now that it is sorted out. Pull in our command pool, and we're going to do the same thing with it. We're going to separate out by their colors. Separating Valorum out because he has a double aspect. Corrupt Politician, again, we have a Sentinel for 1, which is as long as you have more units than your opponent. A couple of the ISB shuttles, leave behind a Sentinel if a friendly unit was defeated, and then on attack, ambush that creates a spy token, so she comes in, and as long as she ambushes, she gives you a 5/7 of value, and that's pretty good on 6. Ambush is easily the strongest keyword of Sealed, so a very nice thing to have there. We know already that we had C-3PO, who is a good one to be able to pop him back to hand and give our units a buff. The Orator is quite nice. Ahsoka is a good card to have there. It's really cool to get some of these special rarity, the S rarity cards that pop up. They are quite strong. The Beloved Orator, which creates a spy token. Again, ambush and ambush with plot. And then we have Overwhelm. That's big if you have it again, if you have several officials in your deck, to be able to heal 2 damage for each. Note that spy tokens are also officials, so if you have a bunch of them out, you can really make hay. When played, when defeated, give a Sentinel, Nubian Scarsriff, and a big 6/7 ambush unit. So green's got some power here. Phoenix Uprising, which we've got a couple of, not too much in our events here. And then being able to disclose 2 green from our hand to capture a unit. Nice. It can deal with some things. It's one of the few removal things that we've got there. But the reveal 2 green might be problematic. We'll think about it and see where we go. Let's finish evaluating our pools first. Once again, we'll set these to the side, including the double aspect. which is pretty much useless to us in this particular set or in setting. I know we got a couple of Kaz, or Kazuda, I should say, and there we are. Interesting start there, but a lot of late finish. Imperial Occupier, which leaves behind a body. Five, 3 in space for hidden is not bad for 4. Being able to deal damage and create something that goes overwhelm, not bad. 3/7, okay. This is pretty solid. Being able to put out a 6/5 body that makes everything else raid 1. Creating 3 spy tokens. Space unit, not awful. Creates a lot of value if you have disclose, because that's 2 red and villainy, which again, build around, yes. Sealed, very difficult. 1, 2, 4, 4, and 6. A couple of hidden, being able to create a spy token. Raid 2, okay, especially if you stop early. You stop early, you make him a 4/6 raid 2, and that's pretty strong for 4. And then we have the Inner Rim Coalition, which lets me ready something like the Kazuda unit. Not a bad play to make. Couple of decent space units there. Disciplinarian is nice, being able to deal 1 damage and pop something ready. And then just a generically powerful 4/5. Probably the best plot card that we opened as far as something to put on a leader. Create 2 spy tokens if we're playing red, and then another decent one. +1/+1, but gives you a unit on board of value, and then a completely dead rare. Let's separate those just a little further. Now, if you see that yellow pool, we don't have a ton of units, and we definitely don't have a ton of power out of those units. You'll notice that these are very, very light on units in this case. And so playing Sly Moore here, although her ability is generically powerful, her pool here is not terribly powerful. We have a 1, 2, and a 3, and that is it. As far as her villainy, cunning units go, and they are fairly weak ones. Garendon gives us some nice things if we have played something else that lets us know it's in their hand. And a Lurking Snub Fighter, exhausting a unit, again, a generically powerful ability. Doesn't leave behind a huge body, but it's in space, and a 2/3 is fine. Bail Organa, okay, you can discard to create a spy token, whatever. These are nice, the Junior Senators, because putting back an upgrade, there's not a ton of upgrade removal in here. And then the Emissaries are pretty good stall late. You don't have a whole lot of value up here in the top. You have just a couple of generic A-Wing and Speeder. And then Vel is a 4/6 with raid 2. Not a whole lot to work with in yellow. Going to make the build pool very difficult if we go with one of our yellow leaders. We do have a few things that can kind of help us out. Bog Down in Procedure, which would allow me to exhaust 2 units. Catch Unawares, which would also allow me to wind up attacking and do a unit for basically free. Krea's Whispers, a couple of them, letting me go dig for cards, but this doesn't really do that much besides let me go search. Charge with Espionage. We're not going to be playing enough yellow based on the units that are there to think that we're going to hit this every time. And then Accelerate Our Plans. We do have a few weak units, so if we did wind up playing in yellow, you're probably going to have something that you don't mind exhausting, because you're not going to get that same value out of it. I'll exhaust a 1 to gain a 3. Yeah. And then fully armed, which, I have to play my leader right after somebody has attacked my base, and I can play something from my hand and give it ambush. A little clunky, definitely workable in this, but not necessarily a thing that I'm looking to build around based on the pool of cards that I have. Imperial gave us a few hits here. We did get a couple of very nice, cheap Supreme Council aids, a Sith Assassin. We worked our way up through the entire curve here, 1 through 5. Um, not bad. Though when we're looking at it, this guy for Jabba might be very good, because he's allowed to do damage to it. He's coming out in a position where if Jabba's on the board, you're going to be able to do 4 damage to a unit. So quite powerful in that regard. Not very deep. Really didn't get a whole lot of help there in heroism. Similar over here, we got an okay set. The big thing that I'm looking at here is that we did get an extra sentinel. Not the very best card pool that I've seen. Not the worst, but not the very best. So the question becomes kind of, what do you want to build out of it? I don't love Yularen's ability, and I've already kind of talked about that it's just kind of slow and clunky. You're probably not going to be able to access it until at least the third turn of the game. His leader side is fairly powerful with a generic 4/6. You complete an attack, and one of your other early game units can attack right after it. That is okay, but probably not the best play that we have. Strong consideration here for Jabba. Blue was a decent pool. We can combine a lot of decent stuff with it. We can probably make something here that my opponents have to attack into at some point and make things a little bit difficult for them. Yellow in heroism is a very, very light pool, once again, which, would mean that we would have to go through another set of cards and get some help. There are only 2 cards up here that are heroism only, and so we would have to be pretty deep on units in another color in order to make that work. And while her ability is, again, quite a powerful ability in this particular set, where you can often exhaust somebody's deck if you are doing it well, the fact remains this is a very shallow pool to play from. Didn't get a whole lot of plot that I necessarily want to play with Palpatine. Slymore suffers from the same. There's a decent amount of red heroism here. There's an okay thing to kind of play from. So let's kind of evaluate between these two. We're going to set heroism to the side for just a moment, and we're going to take a look first at Java's play pool and just kind of see where we get. This is going to activate his ability fairly directly and is a really good card to be able to play with him. The rest of these are pretty generically useful as far as our early drops go. FN Trooper, decent size, not the best unit on the board, but giving an experience token to another friendly unit is powerful. So decent ability. Kane, again, decent ability. Being able to look at resources can interrupt plot a little bit, especially if your opponent has not had an opportunity to use a lot of those. And so, you don't necessarily want to give them a ready resource. But if you look at 3 ready resources and you defeat one of them because it had plot, then, or you just defeat one of them, can be a little bit problematic for your opponents. Let's go ahead and grab blue. We're going to set these in with the idea that we probably would be using all 6 of them. Here's the blue pool that we had. And while we had some good heroism things, we're going to set them to the side for the moment. We have 3 good turn 1 plays that are 2/4s. They've got some sticking power. They can absorb some damage. They can activate Jabba's ability. We also have a 2/4 with grit that is a sentinel, forcing your opponent to attack into it, which means that you're going to have a damaged unit on the board. I've got another sentinel here. Again, quite powerful to have because your opponent's going to have to attack into it, making it very difficult for you to kind of get around. We have another potential sentinel here, so a pretty powerful start there. The cannon is a quite nice way to go. Let's see where we have up our curve. So there's our 3s, a couple of 4s, we've got a 5, we've got a couple of 6s. Pretty strong being able to tap down a unit. Got retaliation, which means that we can just straight defeat a unit. Probably not interested in playing either of these. We're going to set them up here to the side for now. So if we were playing Jabba, here we have 4 early units, 6 when we count turn 2s. We have that along with some good low-end curve to be able to catch Jabba's ability fairly early. That's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 12, 14, 16, 17, 18, 19 that we got just in Jabba's color. So we really only need 11 cards out of suit. We've got a couple different possibilities over here. That would be our 20th if we're doing that, so that somebody has to ram into the Sentinel. If they fail to kill it, then, be able to do damage back with Jabba. Sorry, I dropped a card on the floor. Let's take a look at some of our other things. We had a fairly deep pool in green. And green is where most of our ambush is. But in addition to having some of these that are officials, we have some more space. We've got some ambush, some deal damage. Not a bad set. Not sure what 11 cards it's going to give us specifically. We don't really have pool to support us in yellow. Got some okay support here in red, and so it's really going to be evaluating between these two. This didn't give us any sentinels, and so didn't really give us anything that they have to go through to do damage to. So we would be probably attacking into their units if we were using Jabba's ability. That's a nice win played because I can deal damage to one of my units, ready it, and then have Jabba's ability ready to go online. Of course, it has to be a 2 or less power, and so a lot of things in there do qualify, but not a bad place to be. You do get sudden ferocity, and so you can take this and make Jabba a 5, and a 5/8 that's incredibly difficult to deal with because when he deals damage to something, he's probably going to eliminate it. He's got an 8 health, so it is very difficult to get rid of him, especially if you stick a Sentinel in front of him. You put this on Jabba, he's swinging for 5, he's bouncing a lot of things back. It would give us access to another, way to boost Jabba's health, and at the same time create a spy token. Not a bad complementary pool. So we're really evaluating between these two, and it's a call between, do I want a 7-cost ambush unit with a little bit of healing and a 6-cost ambush unit that creates a spy token, a little bit more space support, because the red did not have a ton of low-end space. Let's get the heroism cards out of the way. Did have a little bit because we have a couple of a 2 and a 3. That again works well with Jabba as long as they don't take the thing out on one shot. So now it becomes kind of a matter of preference. With Jabba, I generally like those keywords Sentinel and Ambush because if Jabba's on the board and I'm able to then follow up and ambush with Deidre, for example, Deidre's going to do 5 damage to something. Whatever damage comes back to her, she gets to hit back with. And that is just a very, very powerful ability. I don't have a ton of officials, but this Nubian Star Skiff is a big one if I do get officials on the board. The Shadow Crawler, if you haven't dealt with Jabba, if you haven't dealt with this, the Shadow Crawler can come out and be a very powerful play. I need about 10 cards worth of what's there. Maybe 11, depending on what I do with one of these Sentinels. Chancellor Valorum, totally useless for getting him out of here. Not going to really deal with Phoenix Uprising. Don't think I'm going to get 11 cards out of this that I just love. So that was 8 cards there that I really like playing out of this, and then I'd have to kind of go for filling some space with the last 2. On the flip side, we've got another low-end unit that creates a spy token. Nice hidden vehicle, being able to deal damage. These are all kind of decent fits. I'm not sure we'd go up as high as Galleon, but we do have some good upgrades and things, so I probably would go red given this, though green is very, very viable. Let's take a look at red and evaluate where we are. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So we would cut between this, we would be cutting down to our last 11 cards. We want the 3 of you. That one. This guy, we know you're useless. We're keeping you. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is not as useful in Jabba. 7, 8, 9, 10. We'll take a look at that. So let's evaluate where we are in our pool, with the notion that we could come back and add some 2s if we needed to. So getting this a little bit out of the way and getting set up. What I'm looking to build is I'm looking to build a deck that has enough early units, and I'm going to lay out the turn 1 and 2 plays. Looking for enough early units to fill out the bottom end of our curve, to have something to do, especially knowing that with Jabba, we might want to use his leader ability, we might not, but we want to create situations where our opponents are having to attack into us a bit. We can create some Sentinels this way, we can create some control this way. Let's see. In a 60 card deck, we would usually be targeting having somewhere around, depending on what we're doing, let's say 10 to 13 first turn plays. This is half that size. 5 to 6 is enough for the same kind of odds. I usually am looking for more like 7 to 8, just because I'm going to have a ton of more commons in my deck in these things than I am anything else. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 first turn plays. I don't think I'm going to be drawing dead in this deck if I run it. I can follow that up with the ability to play something out of here, or if I don't play something out of here because I don't need this ability yet, to play another turn 1 play and turn on Jabba's ability, but I've got 5 fairly strong turn 2 plays in addition to the ability to do things like exhaust one of their units, attack with one of mine, deal Jabba's ability or deal Jabba's damage to something so that, I've got something that has 3 damage on it. I've attacked into and eliminated a first turn play. I've done a lot of damage to the turn 2 play. You'll have to attack back into my turn 1 play again in order to get rid of it. And I can still play another 2 drop, or I can still play another 1 drop on top of that. So there's a lot of flexibility in here to make some moves. And I think this is probably the deck that I would go with. So just kind of laying this out, you'd have Jabba as your leader running a red base, which I probably have one of. Yeah, sure, here it is. Playing 30 cards, meaning that we have a space opener and then several different options for ground openers, a couple of different cards to burn as far as dealing with a quick hit, being able to fill out curve because you've got 1 cost for Jabba's ability, or you've got 1 cost to put out a 2/2 unit. Control card with the ability to buff. It can also make this guy quite problematic because he is very difficult to get rid of. Space Sentinel that you're going to have to attack into, and then I can deal Jabba's ability. But also, this guy, once Jabba is on the board, it means that I can just go ahead and deal 4 to a unit. Not bad. A lot of things over here attack for 2 and being able to deal 1 damage to them. Not that, not that problematic. I can deal 1 damage to this guy, turn him into a grit unit that now has 3 power instead of 2. Not that worried about my upgrades, but a 5/5 for 5 is good value. A 3/7 with a delta of 6. The very difficult to kill cannon kind of rounds out the top of what I'm doing. We do have some removal in here, and then we also have the remainder of these, which gives me very powerful ability for Jabba, as well as creating a spy token with an experience token. I could put things out in Grain Raid 1. I can also attack and give anything that I damage, create overwhelm situations. I think this one's pretty well set up, but that would be the deck that I would go with out of this sealed box. I think that anything that I set up off of the heroism side, since my options are limited to Luthen, who had a decent pool, you know, you probably could run blue-red with Luthen and maybe get something put together because your red heroism, well, you probably could run green with him. Let's take a look at that. Since we didn't use green, we'll have all the access to things. Let's get the villainy cards out of the way. Let's pick Luthen out of here. And we'll set him up with a green base to see what we would have if we had gone that direction. Now again, with these, you are trying to eliminate some of your own things, especially on his backside where his ability is unbound. And if your friendly unit is defeated while attacking, you basically do 2 splash damage to the base. So if you take out one of their units and you use a kind of mutually defeat, you'll wind up doing damage to the base. If I was going to run him, I'd probably run him in green, mostly for access to these guys, which have some pretty good abilities to them. Since he's running with red, let's get that out of the way. And let's get that out of the way. You'd have access here. Probably would wind up using this. Let's see if we have enough of a pool to support what he would do. couple of turn ones, another possible turn one. This is where we're a little bit limited because our other pools were not quite as well supported. We didn't get any units that supported this, and we know that we got a very, very few units that were terribly useful when we start talking about the heroism pool over here. We only got 2 units out of it, and neither of them are turn 1 plays. Our turn 2, if we can get to it, is not going to be bad because we do have some Beloved Order. We've got some Ahsoka Tano. We've got some ability to push there. Our 4 resource turn, fairly strong. Our 5 resource turn gets us access to ambush. Sentinel on 6, ambush again on 7. Not terrible, but the pool is not terribly deep. As we kind of saw with the rest of this, we probably made our best bet going with the Jabba deck. Even though we could add a little bit to this pool if we pulled the red cards, you're really only looking at 1, 2, 3 more units. So not a whole lot to add to this. Anyway, that's what we got for this one. I will say that the most interesting pack that I have opened, since I said that I would talk about that one, opened a pack that, probably the best 2-drop you could run is the trooper, the green 3/3 trooper. It then followed that with a death trooper, since it follows in a blue-green pattern. And so following that with the Death Trooper means that you have 2 of the most generically powerful units that Villainy can have, kind of back-to-back. And I have opened that pack a couple of times where that's what I wound up drawing out of the gate. That really makes for an interesting setup because it is quite difficult to get around if you wind up playing a combination like we did with Jabba and getting kind of a blue-green set. So that's all I've got for this time. Get out there, enjoy your pre-release. Thanks for watching.